CavsCast. We are part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. This is your host, Seth, and joining tonight, WFNY OG, Craig Lyndall. Craig, thank you for joining first off. Second off, happy holidays. How are you?
Yeah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. It's a good time. I'm excited to be on the CavsCast.
Yeah, thank you for joining from upstate New York. We actually didn't have an episode last week just in preparation for the holidays, and there's been a lot of good basketball that's gone on. So, yeah, I really appreciate you jumping in and joining here. And even before we get into it tonight, we're going to do a quick read from our sponsor. We at WFNY, we've got a great deal with Underdog Fantasy. For first-time depositors, enter the code WFNY at checkout, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Underdog is a great platform. If you're tired of the DFS salary system, there's tons of game types and drafts every single night, regardless of the sport. So don't forget, use WFNY at checkout to get your first-time deposit matched up to $100. And this is very topical right now. We are just days away from going live with legalized betting in Ohio. I think we're 5 days away at this point. So this is a great way to kind of jump in and do a little bit of legal gambling, for the next couple of days and get your fix in before we open up the books next Sunday, January 1st.
I'm ready because I think I've blocked every single ad of every online sports betting thing that's hitting me on Twitter because it was like three in a row on and on and on, and it was like, hey, did you know sports betting's about to be legal? You should join us. Did you know it's about to be legal? Join us. And like, it's one thing to have an ad or have a platform that you believe in. It's another thing to be smashed over the head constantly on Twitter. One of the things that I think we can definitely say about Elon's run at Twitter is he's lost control of the advertising algorithm, and we are just getting obliterated.
I swear, every time I see one of those ads, it's, hey, Ohio, claim your $600. It started off with claim your $200 are free. Now it's up to like $2,800. I'm like, oh, do we really get all this money, Craig? It's unbelievable. We're sitting on a gold mine, apparently.
Well, and how impersonal. Hey there, Ohio. Like, I mean, that's all I am now. I'm part of the state, and I'm not Northeast Ohio. I'm not Cleveland suburbs. I'm nothing. I'm just Ohio.
That's right. Now, I'd be lying if I said I didn't sign up for maybe 3 of them. But I think I'm going to end up hitting my max and probably settle in on one. But we'll see. Maybe they'll be featured in a future episode here on the CavsCast. We'll get into a future sponsor here later on.
Yeah.
But coming into a great time to kind of get together and talk about the Cavaliers, and honestly, anyone watching on YouTube, your hat, which is just frankly awesome. I love your hat, Craig.
It's a Christmas hat, baby. Christmas. Yeah.
There we go. Looks great. Tough game last night against the Brooklyn Nets. Return of Kyrie, and Kyrie was winless at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, Quicken Loans before last night. Cavs lose 125-117. The Nets were just red hot from three. They shot 60%, 18 of 30 from three-point line. The just sheer talent, offensive shot-making talent that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving provide, as well as TJ Warren chipped in 23 huge points off the bench. Too much for the Cavs to overcome. They got outplayed by quite a bit in the first half. They did mount a little comeback in the second half, really all due to Darius Garland kind of taking over, but just ended up not being enough. I had a couple, thoughts, takeaways, other than, if you kind of watch the highlights, obviously there was things that stood out, but, Craig, your thoughts, reaction, anything you kind of took away from the game last night, maybe outside of just, Katie and Kyrie having monster games?
Yeah, I'm at that point in the Cavs season where I'm trying to keep it in perspective. Now, first of all, I caught this one on the shortened version of the highlights. I did not watch every minute, and so I'll be lying if I told you I had like a feel to the game, because as you know, you can only really get a feel to the game and the team and how they're playing if you watch it kind of, maybe not beginning to end minute from minute one to the final whistle, but you really don't get a sense from just watching the highlights. So I'd be lying if I said I caught that. But we're at the point of the Cavs season where I feel like this team has shown me enough where I believe that they're a legit contender. I think they need to kind of bide their time. They need to hold serve. It'd be great if they continued to hold their place in the rankings or even got a little bit higher to improve their seed. But ultimately, it's about just kind of continuing this grind, finishing out this season, and peaking at the right time for the playoffs. And I don't know if this team is prepared. You know, they've been dealing with being an underdog and trying to make statements against the best teams in the league. And I think it's a weird thing to say because they didn't really technically make the playoffs last year, but they don't really need to prove anything in this regular season anymore, other than that they can kind of be healthy and maintain their chemistry and enter the playoffs raring to go.
Yeah, not going to find, I don't think either of us getting too worked up over a December loss against a really good Brooklyn Nets team who is the hottest team in the league right now, winners of 9 straight. So, yeah, I was excited last night just to see more so stylistically, okay, what do the Cavaliers try to do to get pressure on, those net shot makers? How do they attack them offensively, defensively? Um,
Let me
one
interrupt a
thing,
second.
yeah.
How did you feel about Jared Allen checking Kevin Durant? How did you feel about them checking Durant, and would you have liked to see them try anything differently?
Yeah, there was one moment I shared this in the Discord where the Cavs went to a little bit of a soft zone. KD just runs to like 3 feet behind the free throw line, gets the ball and scored 2 quick baskets. I didn't see them run zone much more the rest of the game. I did see the Cavs trying to be pretty switchy, and we did see Jared Allen on KD quite a bit. It's a tough matchup for anyone. So honestly, I don't have a huge problem with it. Kevin Durant gave some buckets to Lamar throughout the night, gave some buckets to really everyone. So, I think it's tough for Allen to stick with him, but he's just as good of a defender, I think, as most on the team. I didn't have a huge problem with it. The one thing I didn't love about the Cavs strategy on defense, and who am I to question their strategy, right? But the one thing that I thought they employed really well once they were on their comeback was throwing double teams at KD and Kyrie. There were 2 possessions in a row where they did that, and they forced some of the other nets to try to make plays, and that's really when the Cavs were making their strong comeback in the fourth quarter. I think in a playoff series, we probably see more of that, more aggression, more sending double teams and forcing some of those other guys to beat them. It's December, so they're not going to go probably all out yet. But I did love, the way JB employed that late in the game. It really helped them. They brought it within, I think, 5 points late in the fourth. So that was something I really liked in terms of something they kind of flipped the switch and started sending some doubles. And it's like, hey, make guys like TJ Warren beat you. And, I know Seth Curry wasn't out there, but there's Ben Simmons. There's guys out there, you want to shoot much preferably than Kevin Durant and Kyrie.
Yeah, but at the same time, the way Kyrie was shooting last night, the way he was on, it just reminds you that I know this was a regular season game, but it makes you think about, well, if you're in a series with a team like this, you almost can't sweep them. They're going to have a game where one or both of them their talent just carries the day. And you're just going to have to ride those things out. That's what series are made of, is adjustments and punches and counter punches. And in the regular season, some nights you just get punched without the chance to do a counter punch. But that whole game planning for the same team over multiple games in the course of a series, that's really almost a different game completely than what we witness in the regular season with the NBA. And that's the biggest question about these Cavaliers is, will they be able to make those kinds of adjustments? Will they be able to make the kind of noise we want them to make in the playoffs? Because we don't have any evidence really for a lot of these guys.
Yeah. Going back to your point about guys getting hot, one of the accounts I'll follow somewhat closely on Twitter is Shot Quality, and they do a good job of expectations of shots made versus shots missed, and they take into account, player efficiency. So a guy like Kyrie takes tough shots. He's going to make a lot of tough shots, but they gave kind of the spread of last night's game and say, based off the quality of shots, the Nets were making some really good contested shots. And Bickerstaff shared that after the game as well. He said for the most part, he was happy with the contest. And the statistics showed that, hey, most nights, of course, it's a make or miss league, so it's all for naught. But most nights the Cavs actually win that game because the Nets just made some really tough shots. So that was something else. If you're trying to look for any kind of positives in there, if you are kind of freaked out about a December loss, something you can lean your hat up against and say, okay, they're probably not going to shoot that hot, in a 7-game series potentially. The one other piece that I took away, and this is probably just like a little bit too much football mindset, but there was one play in the first quarter where Ben Simmons and Jared Allen got tangled up, and the refs had blown the whistle, and then probably 2 to 3 seconds after that, you can kind of see Ben Simmons sticks his leg out, and Jared Allen and Ben Simmons both have their hands on the ball. Ben Simmons kind of sticks his leg out and kind of flings the ball over his hip, almost like a little hip toss. And Jared Allen goes tumbling. And he was ticked. I mean, we don't see Jared Allen get upset like ever. And he came up, he was shouting at the ref, he was doing hand gestures. Kyrie was actually kind of like mocking him right in front of him. And like the one thing I didn't see, Craig, was like Evan Mobley or Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. I didn't see anyone kind of get into Ben and be like, hey, you don't do that to our guy. And I think that's something that, it's December, but I love to see a little bit of that fight and that toughness especially when it's in your city. Hey, get into that guy and say, you're not going to throw our big guy around. So it's not basketball at all, but just seeing some of that grit, I was kind of bummed out to not see one of the Cavaliers go up and kind of check Ben a little bit there.
For the old folks out there, when Ben Wallace came to the Cavaliers, he brought some of that stuff. And you look around, the Cavs have some really competitive guys. They've got some really quality players, some really great dudes, but I don't get the sense that they have any MFers on that roster. You know what I mean? Like that guy who's just going to like get in somebody's grill. And yeah, Jared Allen, if you squint, he might kind of look like Ben Wallace, but he's not Ben Wallace. He's not Ben Wallace. He's the nicest guy. I think he waves to the crowd before every game. He's the biggest sweetheart you've ever seen. And maybe you don't need that, but I'm with you. Maybe you do need that.
Yeah, I've seen 1 or 2 plays from Donovan where there's like a tie up and he just refuses to let the other guy take the ball. It happened in Indiana the other night against the potential rookie of the year, Mathurin, which was kind of cool. But yeah, it was just one of those things
and it was a turning point of the game.
Exactly. Yep. And if last night felt like a playoff atmosphere, Kevin Durant's back, Kyrie's back. It was a big game. It was a pretty big game. I think an opportunity where they're coming off a loss against Toronto where they kind of got beat up too. So an opportunity to say, hey, this isn't happening in Cleveland tonight. And just, one of those things. I know as a fan, player probably hears this and think, oh, it's just stupid. It's just one play. But, it just brings an attitude to the game that, you can just feel throughout the rest of the 48 minutes.
So the other thing about the game, we talk about Durant and Kyrie both being hot, which, isn't all that shocking. But it wasn't a big Donovan Mitchell night. And the Cavaliers just aren't going to be able to compete night in, night out with teams quality of the Nets without Donovan Mitchell kind of going off. So, I mean, you watched it more in depth. What did you make of Donovan Mitchell's night? And is it just one bad night or one mediocre night?
Yeah, it's something I definitely have my eye on, Craig, is that I'm interested to see how he does with bigger defenders on him. Now he's struggled in a couple games versus the Raptors, and he ended up getting switched on to Nick Claxton a couple times last night, and Claxton kind of shut his water off. It's one thing I'm taking a look at to see. I think one thing that we've seen so far this season with Donovan is any shot's a pretty good shot to him. Like he can get a shot off at any point. It's just a couple times more per game. I wouldn't hate to see him try to get into the lane and get a few more paint shots. He loves to do his little step back jumpers. So that is something I'm looking at. Is he took a lot of contested shots last night, and the Nets have some really good switchability. Whether it's KD coming out, Nick Claxton coming out, they really don't have many weak defenders. Ben Simmons did a pretty good job on Donovan. So yeah, I think it was one of those things where he's maybe settling a little bit, but again, he's not a 6'7", 6'8" guy. He's a 6'2", 3 guy with a long wingspan, but I think it's tougher for him when he goes up against some of these taller wing defenders to get his shot off. So he needs definitely needs some more of that spacing, and hopefully him and DG continue to develop that chemistry so they can get some good open shots together. And really, to me, the most important thing is how they play off ball from one another. There's still a fair amount of kind of standing around. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. I think the way they really unlock this is just off ball movement. I'm hoping to see much more of that, over the course of the next 40 or so games.
Yeah, those games, and I struggle to come up with some specific examples, but whenever you're watching a game and you see both Garland and Mitchell at various points catch and shoot threes, it feels like that's when they're at their best, because that means not only are those guys hitting shots, but they're finding space on the floor, the ball's moving and it's finding them, and they don't have to work quite so hard to get those shots. When Mitchell is working to get his shot, it's a lot different than when the Cavs are flowing and that ball is moving, and maybe LeVert is driving and kicking, and all of a sudden, he's never felt so open. And that's really when the Cavaliers are at their best. And you're right, it's going to be tough for them to feel that way, or you know I don't know how great the Nets are as a defensive team, but they are long. They do have that extra length on the wings, and so on certain nights when they're actually trying on defense, it's going to be tough.
Yep. You brought up a really good point, Craig. I was hoping to hit on tonight is the importance. Although we've stressed 3 times already, it's a December game. You just want to see how things kind of match up, how things go, and the chess match really between coaches is what I'm interested in. But the importance of some of these wins now. So the East, and really the top tier of the East, has really shaken up over the past couple weeks. So the Brooklyn Nets have won 9 in a row. Philadelphia 76ers have won 8 of their last 10. And so the top tier of that East has really changed over the past couple weeks. It really was, Milwaukee.
When I know the Celtics skidded for a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. The Celtics have lost a couple. Milwaukee's lost a couple. So, I think we're on the verge of kind of seeing a top 5. And then I think there's going to be a little bit of everyone else. So right now, I'll just do a quick read off. Boston Celtics 24-10. They're in first. Milwaukee Bucks 22-11. So they're a game and a half back. Brooklyn Nets 22-12. They're 2 games back. Cavaliers, who are currently in 4th place, 22-13, 2.5 games back. Philadelphia 76ers 20-12, 3 games back. So there's currently 5 teams all within 3 games of each other. And then you have a 3 games slide until you see the New York Knicks in the 6th spot. So, as I look at all 5 of those teams, Boston, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Cleveland, and Philly, I don't think it's short-sighted to say any 5 of those teams, I wouldn't be absolutely stunned, if they made it out of the East. Of course, you have your favorites probably with Boston and Milwaukee, but, I think those are based off the way they're playing now, and with Embiid coming back and Philly looking really good, having the second best defense in the league. I think any 5 of those teams have really risen, and man, it's going to be a bloodbath down the stretch here. I think you need to pick up as many of those wins as you can, because seeding is going to be important. And man, if you can get in that top 4 and host, have the home advantage in a first round playoff series, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, I still, they were a little bit down last year because they won the championship the year before. But for me, Milwaukee still feels like maybe the team to beat. And obviously Boston has a claim as well. I don't want to talk down about them. But as far as Milwaukee goes, you're talking about Giannis. I think you're talking about the most dominant player. When you get to the playoffs, he is the biggest force, other than maybe Kevin Durant. And we've seen Kevin Durant with this team, and he looked kind of lonely at times. But the way that they've built that roster in Milwaukee, it's when they're healthy, they're very complementary, and it lets Giannis do the most, I think, and let him be the dominant force. I still think Kevin Durant is by far the best player. But with that surrounding cast, I think Giannis is in the best spot. So if it's like my power rankings, I'm still going Milwaukee first, probably Boston second, and then I'll figure it out after that.
Yeah, there's no denying Giannis. It just feels like we're seeing the best player in the world. And it happened in 2 games already in Milwaukee when the Cavs played him. The Cavs got out to 12 to 15-point leads in the first half. He flips the switch, the Bucks flip the switch, and then all of a sudden, they're riding home to a
He's
win.
doing post games. He's doing post games where he's like eating chicken nuggets and stuff. Like he's so relaxed during this regular season. He's just rolling with it.
And he's so damn humble. You try to like, okay, this is a rival that the Cavs are probably going to run into over the next couple years, but I'm having a hard time. He's just so dang humble. He should be winning MVP realistically like every year. He's getting into that LeBron territory where it's like, who's the best player? I don't know. It's been Giannis for like 4 years, but if we want to like, give it to other people, that's cool, I guess. But
I mean, how
it's
many
hard
times
not
have
to
we
like him.
seen this in our lives in all sports? Whether it was LeBron, not kidding, or people talking about anybody other than Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. It's like you guys are just bored. You're not even doing it the right way anymore. Just doesn't even make sense. All right, I think we lost Seth again. I'm going to give him a few minutes to catch back on. I think his Wi-Fi switched to the wrong one again. All right, it looks like I'm looking at your connection. Looks like it might be back. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies here. Yeah, and just to I guess kind of round it out, I wanted to give a little bit of love to Philadelphia because that is one team that's like my league pass team. I hate watching James Harden, but
Oh,
I
me
love like
too.
it's brutal, isn't it? I mean, but some of the
Between
pieces.
him and Trey Young, I just there's a lot of hateable basketball to watch.
Yes. There's a couple pieces really while he's been out. The Philly found their defensive identity. They've had guys like DeAnthony Melton step in and Niang and Tobias Harris is playing, having his best season. They've been a really fun team without Harden and really stepped up. Like I said, second in defensive rating, 109.4, only behind the Cavaliers, who are still 108 for a full point better. But yeah, they played some great basketball. And Embiid is again playing just incredibly well, and that's a team who I think really has a shot. Embiid versus Giannis, I think would be a hell of a series. We're a long way to go from there. We need to make sure there's no injuries, but I think it just speaks to like, man, this Eastern Conference is going to be so damn fun. We're going to get like 3 or 4 awesome series, just to get out of the East, and
How much
I
fun
think
would
it's
it be
going to be
to,
super
to
fun.
go up against Philly? They have watched the Cavs go up against Philly. I'm looking forward to watching the Cavs go up against any of these teams. And yeah, I want to see them advance. But like if I'm removing the homer part of it, um, watching Embiid against the Cavs bigs and just watching Harden versus the Cavs front, um,
Mhm.
the backcourt and the front, it would be really a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing that really sticks out, man, is geez, you think of the East and you think of all these big guys, whether it's Embiid or Giannis or Robert Williams, who's just a monster on the boards and blocking shots. It's like Allen's going to have his work cut out for him. I think we all love Jared Allen. We love what he brings. He's such a glue guy for this team. But man, if they want to get serious about it, advancing, he's going to have some really good playoff series if the Cavs want to go to round 2 or even round 3 this upcoming playoffs.
When I don't want to get into the ref zone, but he's going to have to get the benefit of the doubt. He's going to have to be allowed to play defense because we've seen him get those quick whistles before where it feels like they don't want to let him play even a little bit physically down low. And all of a sudden he picks up 2 quick fouls and he just you don't get the real Jared Allen experience. And it's such a shame for the Cavs when that happens.
Yep. Yeah, and speaking of the fouls, I think this is a guy who's had some foul troubles early on in the year. It's not my best transition, Craig, but I'm just going to keep rolling with this.
I love it.
So wanted to also talk about Isaac Okoro, Karis LeVert, Diakite, Lamar Stevens, your boy Dean Wade, and just the revolving door at the small forward position. So there have been 5 starters at the smart forward position so far this year. Dean Wade was injured on December 3rd. He kind of sprained his shoulder, I think is what we were told. And he had a 3 to 4 week prognosis. We're right at 3 to 4 weeks, obviously being at the end of December here. We finally got a little bit of news that came out just a couple hours ago, and JB essentially said, I'm not reading it, but I'm just going to go, not word for word here, but essentially said, it's taken a little bit longer than we'd like. But he's back on the court and he's doing some work. So really can't take too much from that, but it sounds like he's going to miss out on that 3 to 4 week. It's probably going to extend into the, some point in January. But man, Craig, the one thing that we all know it, but you watch the game and you can really see it, whether it's Okoro or Stevens or even LeVert to a degree. It's at times it's just 4-on-5, man. And I think it has impacted the last couple of games, specifically. It's really impacted the degree of difficulty for the big guys and the kind of shots that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are getting, because the paint is just so crowded. Guys are just not really guarding Lamar Stevens, Isaac Okoro out on the wing, where they're setting up for really that corner three. Lamar seems to like to camp on the left side, corner three. Okoro seems to like to camp kind of more on the right side, the corner three. But it's just tough seeing the 4-on-5. And man, I know I'm probably speaking for you here, but they need Dean back sooner the better, because spacing has been brutal.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of cases you could say that Stevens and LeVert have more complete games, or might even be overall better might be overall better basketball players. But there's Dean Wade and what he brings. He's the best sniper, the best shooter, and so he brings the most respect to the perimeter. And there's just something about the spacing when he's in that game versus those other guys that I really love. I love Dean Wade as your starter, and then I love whoever's hottest between LeVert, Stevens, and even Jetty, kind of coming off that bench. Because when Jetty is a streaky shooter, but when he's not shooting, he's at least driving to the hole like a crazy person. And he's in transition. He's always on that fast break. And he's done a really great job finishing on the fast break in ways that I don't think any of us thought that he was going to be able to do when he came into the league. He's he definitely has a ceiling, and it's a little bit lower than anybody would like, but he's smashed straight into the ceiling. He makes the most of whatever talent he's been given. And so I feel very good about that. The options coming off the bench, that extra person. But I think they need Dean Wade to lock in and be that starter and be that threat from outside, hit a couple early shots. It really opens everything up for everybody else. And it gives those other guys a chance to be the change of pace to Dean Wade. And when LeVert comes in after they've been looking at Dean Wade and he drives to the hole and maybe kicks it out, it's a different look. And it's like a pitcher who can throw 90, but then throws that curveball or the changeup at 72. You got to change speeds. It's not about having the 100 and none of these guys have 110-mile-an-hour fastball. But if they can use multiple guys to change speeds, I hate to mix my metaphors with baseball, but it's just how I think.
Yeah, and it's not as much even the percentage. Like Lamar Stevens has really seen a downtick in his 3-point percentage this year. He doesn't take a lot. He's been hesitant to take them, and that shows up to when the opposing team's watching film. Okoro has really been struggling all season long, and there's some advanced stats that show how wide open those guys are. And the field goal percentage, even though it's still not good, but the 28%, I think roughly for Okoro, the 33% for Stevens, based off how wide open they are, it's still a really bad percentage. An average NBA player shoots 42% based off of how many feet away, the closest defender is to those guys. And yeah, it's just, it's tough right now because you look at Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and they're not getting those clean looks. They're not getting those lobs they were last year. Some of the easy stuff isn't quite coming, and it's purely to me, to my untrained eye, it's purely because you're playing 4-on-5 and they're just simply not guarding those guys out there. There's a couple plays burnt in my mind, but the one consistent is Darius Garland kind of top right part of the key. Jared Allen goes and screens his guy. Darius cuts to the hole. Jarrett's rolling. They cover it pretty nicely, and the help defender on the corner three gets in and helps. That creates a 3-on-2. Garland swings it to the corner, and regardless if it's Okoro, Stevens, etc., they're hesitant, they're taking the shot, missing, or they're hesitant and dribble drive. So yeah, I think Dean Wade, even if he doesn't shoot 40%, just the threat of him, I think, is really going to help out, not only for him to score, but really just for the big guys to get those clean looks.
So I'm not one of these people that's like mad at Okoro. I don't hate him. Yeah, I get upset when I see a lot of the negativity about the guy, but I do think that it's probably time to start thinking about life after Okoro. I don't understand why people there's so much vitriol toward the kid, because he works really hard and he's got a great attitude, and the effort level is just off the charts. So it just doesn't always happen for some guys, at least not in their first stop. And I don't think it makes him a bad person. I don't think it makes him evil. And so I get a little bit upset when people's frustration turns into like personal attacks against the dude, especially one who's tried to do everything the right way. But at the same time, in my sober moment here, talking to you, just between us, where nobody else is watching, I think it makes me sad, but I think it probably is time to just maybe move on from the Okoro experiment.
Yeah, it's tough because he's still 21. I think he's turning 22 soon, but it's just yeah,
And this is
it's one
what,
of those
year
things.
three?
Year 3, he was a very young 19-year-old when he was drafted. But, year 3 is, regardless of the age, usually year 3 is where you start to reap those benefits and reap those rewards and kind of get that value of the rookie contract. And yeah, to your point, we just haven't seen it. And it's tough because, and I've heard this referenced on a couple of podcasts, but it's so true. You could almost argue that maybe he wasn't put in like the best position because this team has accelerated so much where, if this was a Houston Rockets or Detroit Pistons team, all good, man. You get those reps, you take the ball up, you create, we're going to ride with you for the next year or two, see what shakes out. But, hey, sorry, this is a top 4 or 5 team in the East. It's win now mode. And we could really use like a 31-year-old veteran small forward spot up shooter right now. So I think that's definitely something that, Kobe should be looking at. And yeah, to your point, it's all love. The kid busts his ass. We don't hear stories of him shutting down the club in West 6th until 2 a.m. He's getting shots up before and after, and all the best to him, and hope he turns it around, if not in Cleveland, somewhere else, because it seems like a heck of a kid.
Yeah, I just I guess in my old age now, I just don't have any time for the negativity anymore. It's like, if the guy's got to go, he's got to go, and I hope he does really well somewhere else. But yeah, it's unless they were like a bad person, I don't have any OL.
Not at all. Not at all. And speaking of, speaking of positivity here, I know we're kind of at the 33-minute marker almost. I wanted to shift gears, unless there's anything else Cavs wise, Craig, you wanted to hit on.
Now
No?
let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, due to the fact that it's 12/27, we're kind of sandwiched in between a couple of awesome holidays here. Wanted to get your take. We're gonna transition to some seasonal holiday stuff very quickly. So, Craig, 2 questions for you, and I'll just kind of rapid fire at you here. Your favorite holiday movie would be what?
All right, so the favorite holiday movie is Elf, but I'm going to give you the off the radar one that nobody else watches, that is a holiday tradition for our family, and that's Nick Cage and Taya Leone in The Family Man. It's kind of
Yes.
like a weird Scrooge. It's like Nick Cage is something of an A-lister, but it's kind of like if they really, really wanted to make this movie, they would have gotten Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. But we got Nick Cage and Tia Leone, and I love it. But it's like the B list version of The Family Man, and that's what we got, and I love it.
So we didn't talk about this beforehand. I freaking love that movie. And I thought it was like a secret thing that like just no one really even talked about it. It's an incredible Jeremy Piven supporting actor who is hilarious. Don Cheadle is awesome in it. Nick Cage singing to his wife is like the movie's awesome.
Well, and my kids are watching it for the first time this year, and they saw Don Cheadle, and they're like, "Is that War Machine?"
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's War Machine. and then what's a Ghost Rider or whatever? Is that what Nick Cage plays?
That's right.
So
Yep.
everything's the filter is all about superhero movies with my kids. So how about you? You like the Family Man? What's yours?
Yeah, my tradition, the one I really kind of did it, when I was growing up was Santa Claus. Tim Allen. I just absolutely love the Santa Claus. Just so damn good. I love the tinsel, breaking out of jail. I love, up on the rooftop, putting the pants on. It's just hilarious. And like the nagging between like the ex-wife and the father-in-law. It's just awesome. I just love that movie.
So, and this is the difference between our ages. When that one first came out, I was too old for it. It was too cheesy. But then, like once I had kids, and it was like, oh, Santa Claus, and I was watching it with them. It was like, all right, now I'm in the zone for it. But there's like all that like you know stuff that was really cool for you when you were a kid, unless it was timeless, then you know anyway, there's just one of those things that we kind of miss out on, but in the long run, the timeless stuff we all catch up on.
Yeah, it would make its way back, and I'll throw a really quick kind of sneak one I saw that honestly last year had me tearing up a little bit, and it was one of those I didn't do any pre-reading about it, but Claus, I think Klaus on Netflix. It's animated, but it's Rashida Jones, Benedict
Yes.
Cumberbatch. Man, that have you seen that, Craig? I was like, whoa, I
Yeah.
was not ready for that movie.
No, it was so good. And then last but not least, just kind of campy fun. This was the year, and wink, wink. I think everybody knows what I'm saying. My kids were finally ready for Gremlins because it wasn't going to spoil anything for them. So we watched Gremlins.
Oh, it's called, you got to do it. Oh, I love it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, oh, good stuff.
But there's
Well,
that
hey,
one scene. If you don't, if you show it to your kids too early, it might ruin some of the magic of Christmas. Got to be careful.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, spoiler alert. If anyone hasn't seen Gremlins yet.
From what, 1984 or 85, something like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you out of here on this one then. Maybe there's like a top two or three list, just like we did movies. But is there a certain like holiday dish, meal, entree, whatever that let your like family go to?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer this one in a unique way because I'm not like a dessert guy really. I'm not about the sweets, and I could name meals and different things that are my favorites during the holidays, but I'm just gonna say like all the snacks. So like somebody in my family, my brother always makes Chex Mix with extra butter. Do the like the cheese and the crackers. I like having snacks around it's basically from 2 or 3 days before Christmas until all the way till New Year's Day, and you're just they're dips and snacks, and I just all of the salty snack treats. That's my deal. I know a lot of people are into it for the Christmas cookies and all the sweets. For me, it's all the salty, all the charcuterie and the meats and the cheeses. I just love all that stuff. And
Yep.
you?
Yeah. I'm in the exact same boat. I don't have like a family traditional on like the ham and pineapple. I don't know. We don't really do any of that stuff. Jess and I will do like lasagna. We're kind of weird. We do the same thing. It's cheese and crackers. You're filling up on that stuff. You got like good like chips and salsa. Like to do some spicy, salsa stuff and
Dude,
just
how
just
great
weird
and how
stuff.
great is a lasagna? If you do like a lasagna at Christmas and then you get that leftover lasagna for at least 4 or 5 days after, it's the best.
The last 2 days, it's all I've eaten. It's just awesome. Just give me a square and let's roll. It's so good. Oh, good stuff. Well, Craig,
Yeah, man,
those
those
are
are
that
fun.
was the important stuff. Yeah, the holiday stuff was honestly the most fun I had. So maybe we hit on more of that next time. But
All right, last but not least, what's the go-to Christmas song?
ooh, you know, prisoner of the moment. I just watched Christmas Vacation, and that song does it for me.
All right.
Christmas time is here. I love it. So that one sticks out. How
Yeah,
about yourself?
mine is forever and ever, Baby Please Come Home. It's in
Mm.
it's in Gremlins, and it's just my favorite. Darlene Love is the best. So that's mine.
I'm envisioning we might have to grab like one or two other guys from the Discord, and we'll have to do like a holiday power draft or something like that. We like draft our team of stuff. This could
I
I
love
think
it.
we're onto something. Yeah. All right.
I
I'll
mean,
make it a
this
note.
is we'll do like a March Madness bracket. of Christmas songs and Christmas snacks. It's like what you do during the dead times. It's like, what's the Mount Rushmore of Christmas snacks, or the March Madness. Although one of my favorite bands, Spanish love songs, they always do a March Dadness where they rank all the dad songs.
No, that's good. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. I think there's something here because this is the most like animated I think you and I have been. So yeah, we're gonna lean into this a little bit more next time, I think. But
I mean, we're very sober and matter of fact. If this was the playoffs and blah, 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 to Cavs, and they were like snacks and movies. Yeah.
the
Get
good
me
stuff, the
going.
important stuff. Yeah. Well, this was awesome, Craig. Thank you so much for jumping in tonight. I hope you have a great holiday, and really appreciate you
Yeah.
jumping
Happy
on.
New Year, everybody.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. For those watching, listening in, the Cavs have 2 more games in 2022 at Indiana Thursday. They play in Chicago on New Year's Eve. 2 more games. We'll be back next week working on some fun guests for 2023. Thank you for listening, Craig. Thanks for jumping on. Hope everyone has a great night. And like Craig said, Happy New Year. Thanks all.